Hello friends, my name is Yuvraj Kukar. In this video, we'll learn about virtual machines scale sets. We'll start with learning basic concepts in a PowerPoint and then deploy a scale set in the Azure portal by using a custom image. So without further delay, let's start it. So let me tell you what virtual machine scale sets are. I'll start with elasticity. This is one of the key feature. So one of the biggest benefits of cloud computing is that it can be elastic. The idea behind elastic computing is that you can stretch or shrink your cloud services usage to accommodate changes in workload. Azure includes several services with elastic features. One of the compute feature is Azure Virtual Machine Scale Set. Now, if I have to basically define it, I would say it is a set or a pool of identical VMs of the same configuration for high availability, which can be managed through load balancer or application gateway. We have studied availability set in my previous video, which is also a high availability option. Now, if you have to differentiate between scale set and availability set, I would say ability set, the VMs in the ability set consist of discrete VMs which have their own names and individual properties. However, virtual machine scale set requires identical machines which are created or deleted and even managed dynamically. Some compare it as cattle versus pets metaphor for cloud scaling. You can customize the first cow in the herd, but all the others will exactly the first one. Because scale set is an array of identical VMs, you only have to configure the instance once and then scale set will handle creating and removing the machines. So how about cost? Service from Azure is free. The virtual machine scale set service is free. However, the underlying compute, network, storage does have charges. It supports Windows and Linux operating system. Custom and platform images can be used, and the limit of creating VMs with custom image is 600 and with platform or out of box image is 1000 VMs. On a side note also, even Microsoft Container Service use virtual machine scale set to orchestrate VMs. So last I'll talk about the key feature of scale set is auto scaling, which is dynamically scale out and scale in, or you can call it vertical or horizontal scaling based configurations such as using data metric or by daytime schedule. um, VMs can be scale out or scale in. As an example, on suppose weekdays you need more compute power than weekend, or hypothetically suppose on Black Friday during the peak sale, when the assumption is more users will hit the website, you can set the days to have more VMs created in the scale set and later discard it. All right, so this is just an visualization of how it works. So in this diagram, if you see on the left hand side, there are customers who are accessing, suppose a website which is running on the VMs under virtual machine scale set through a load balancer. Load balancer is basically distributing the load between one of the VM. And now, one fine day, there is like, suppose there is some sale and or some usage increased. There are addition of customers there, and they are trying to access the same website. And one of the VMs unfortunately had some issue. What VM scale set would do, because we have configured account, suppose number of VMs should be 3, it will automatically add another virtual machine by checking the health probe of the VM. Again, same way, it will scale in when there will be less load. It will automatically take away the virtual machine which is not needed, and suppose the minimum count you set as 2, the total remaining VMs will be 2. So when to use virtual machine scale set? A typical example I would say where you have an application, you have front tier, middle tier, and a data tier. So in this diagram, I shown like the front tier where you have a web app having identical virtual machines you need to handle the load. It's a typical example you can use a virtual machine scale set. All right, so with that, just quickly read about the benefits of virtual machine scale sets or auto scaling. One is higher fault tolerance. In my previous diagram, as I showed, the VMs, scaled out and scale in dynamically. That's typical example of fault tolerance where unhealthy VMs are taken out of the load balancer and allow auto scaling rules to kick in with additional healthy VMs. Next is higher availability. You can deploy the VMs in availability zones, even in virtual machine scale set for high availability option. And there will be improved cost management because the scale in, scale out options help you to save money when there is less load or more load. The VMs can be dynamically allocated or removed to save some cost. All right, so this is just basic concept we studied. Now let's jump on to on deploying it in the Azure portal. I'm bringing up the screen. All right, so I have Azure portal on my screen. To deploy a virtual machine scale set, you simply need to search on virtual machine scale set option. However, before we start deploying virtual machine scale set, I would like to show you, how to create the custom image which you need to deploy VMs, in virtual machine scale set. You can definitely deploy, a image, a gallery image or a platform image when you deploy the virtual machine scale set. But I think the recommended option or a best practice would be you create a virtual machine, a VST disk in which you deploy, your web server and then clone that server to use the VST image for the virtual machine scale set. So as an example, if I go to my resource group, I actually deployed one virtual machine here, which is this one, right? I will connect to this virtual machine first through RDP, right? And here I am bringing the virtual machine on this screen. I have two monitors actually. So, all right. So here, once you have the virtual machine ready, you log in. Simply go to command prompt. Slow, and then look for system32 sysprep. Oh, sorry. C Windows system32 sysprep. And then what we have to do is we have to run the sysprep.exe and make this VM generalize. So when I do sysprep.exe, all right, so you will see this sys preparation tool on your screen. You simply need to select that generalize and select an option shutdown, which will shut down the machine once you complete the generalize option. So once you do that, once you click on this, it will take some time to generalize the machine and completely shut down the machine. To save some time, I have already done that, but I'll show you what you have to do in here. So I'll simply shut down this machine for now. All right, perhaps I'll run for you. All right, here, shut down. and I want to show you how sysprep will work. So this will take some time to completely generalize this machine. Once it will be done, uh, all right. So once it will be done, you simply come to that virtual machine, click on capture to capture the image. It will ask you what name you have to give in the image, give the name of the image, in which resource group you want to add your image. Make sure the resource group you choose is the one where you are looking to create virtual machine scale sets, because the image and the virtual machine scale set should needs to be in the same resource group. And then I would use this option automatically to delete this virtual machine after creating the image. You anyhow cannot use it. If you read this, help given by Microsoft, once the virtual machine is marked as generalized, no further action on it are allowed. A generalized virtual machine can't be started or modified. So I mean, you can select the option to delete this virtual machine. In case you want to add this machine in different zones, you can do that, and simply type the virtual machine name for which you are creating the image from, and then it will create it. I have done these steps just to save some time. And if I go to image, uh, you see this images created as showing under my own images. I basically followed the same steps I showed you in here to do that. All right, so let's start with creating the virtual machine scale set now. Virtual machine scale sets. All right. All right. So here are some options on my screen. I'll go one by one and try to, explain what does it mean. Simply first is you need to choose a subscription in which you want to create the virtual machine scale set and the resource group. All right, then give the name of virtual machine scale set. I'll say, VMSS AZ demo 2. All right, in which region you want to create the virtual machine scale set. I will choose East US because my image is in this region. And then if you want to create your machines in different zones for high availability, you can choose, and in which you can choose number of zones. See, it depends upon, if you spread your virtual machines out to more than one zone, of course you will get high availability, but there is some limitation which will be the bandwidth, or the latency in the connection. So that you need to think of. And then next option is orchestration. This is actually in preview, but I'll tell you what it is. Um, in so there are two options in scale set VMs and the virtual machines. So scale set VMs, basically the life cycle, the creation, deletion of VM is managed by virtual machine scale sets, and VMs can be configured based upon virtual machine scale set config. It supports multiple availability zone as well. If you see, we selected this option and we are able to select all three zones. However, if you select the virtual machine option, which is the VMs created outside of virtual machine scale set and explicitly added to the scale set, and you manage the lifecycle of the VMs. And also, it just support only one zone. It don't support creating machines from different zones. So here we'll pick the option of scale set VMs and choose all three zones here. Next is image. You can of course choose the platform images, or in this case we will choose the image we created after, in that VM I configured the web server already through IIS and made the image out of it. So I'll choose this image and then choose the size of the VM which I want to create. Username, user, password. All right. If you have a Windows license, then you can simply say yes to save some cost, or a hybrid benefit you have. Otherwise, you can say no. Next is the disk, on what disk type you want to choose, premium SSD, standard solid state drive or a standard hard disk drive. I'll suppose choose premium SSD over here, and then encryption in case you want, a platform level managed encryption, or you want to get take your own key for encryption and use with key vault. For managed this, you can choose the platform managed key encryption. It also has an compatibility of ultra disk, which is very new. It has more IOPS and throughput in case you want to choose the ultra disk compatibility. Next is this is the all for the operating disk, and next is the data disk, is in case you want to create a data disk. Options are pretty same. You want to choose an empty disk of how much capacity you want to choose, and then encryption type platform or your own. If you have own RSA key, you can choose the customer managed key. All right. In advance, we simply choosing manage disk. We don't want to manage our own disk, so we'll choose the managed disk, which is managed through Azure. Okay. Okay, next is networking. In networking, here you need to choose the virtual network. In here. I'm as an For this deployment, I'm creating a new, VNet. In case you want to choose your, VNet you already have, where you have your subnets and IPs defined, then you can choose your own VNet. I'm basically choosing the new one, which Azure will create automatically with this integration. The network interface is a NIC card. It's just showing the name of the NIC card, where we don't have any public IP. What subnet IPs you can basically edit, and can give advanced options, choose advanced options for NSG in case you want uh, more ports to be open. As an example, you um, you know want RDP to your machines, then you need to add 3389 port, which you can choose, even though it's not recommended for production environment. But in this video, I'll show you if you want to RDP to the machines created by the virtual machine scale set, how you can do it. And then port HTTP 80 in case, for the front end load balancer to reach to the internal virtual machines. We do not require a public IP for this, because we will be using the load balancer option. Under load balancer, we have two options to choose: either application gateway or Azure load balancer. Azure load balancer is a layer 4 load balancer, which works on transport layer. Um, and supports all TCP UDP network traffic, whereas the application gateway is layer 7. It works on HTTP or HTTP web traffic. If you have, then you choose application gateway, and it's used to balance the load within the region. All right, so as you see, both options are there. I'm choosing Azure Load Balancer. It will create a new standard load balancer, not the basic. It will create the standard for VMSS. If you have a basic one, you cannot use with VMSS. If you already have a standard load balancer, and if you want to choose, you can simply, I have created one, so I can choose that load balancer as well. However, it's not in that VNet, so it's not allowing me to do it, but you can do that. And I'm choosing here a new load balancer. With the new load balancer, it will create a new backend pool. In the backend pool, I'll show you, once it will be created in the load balancer. The backend pool will be the VMs, where the connection from load balancer to reach to those VMs on port 80. All right. So next option is scaling. I think this is the most important configuration here in VMSS, because this is I think the key reason one would choose to create VMSS for dynamically allocating or dynamically scale in, scale out the machines. So you have two options here. One is manual, which is you are saying simply that I need two instance to be created in the virtual machine scale set, and if I need more, I will manually go in the configuration and change to 2 to 4 to 10. However, the custom option here is you can basically defining a logic by saying, all right, let's start with, as an example, I'll start with 2 instance. All right, and then minimum number of VMs, which means if suppose I have less load, so how many VMs it will scale into. So it will scale into maybe minimum of 1 VM still be there, and maximum will be 10. You can maybe make 20, 30 based upon your load. And now how it will check the load, it will check by the threshold given here, which means if the application threshold is um, more than equal to 75%, then it will scale out, it will increase the virtual machine um, uh, by, here is a number which is 1, so keep increasing one by one. But before it increase, it will wait for 10 minutes to see the metrics again. It will see the metrics by saying, okay, now I have added one more virtual machine, load is distributed, and now see the metrics. If the load is still over and above 75% threshold, then yes, keep creating another virtual machine by adding one more and one more. In case the load is less than 25% for some reason, then keep decreasing or scale in virtual machine by one by checking the threshold limit of 10 minutes. All right, so for this example, I will just choose the manual one. I'll show you how to change this in case you want to do it after you configure the virtual machine scale set. Okay, next is the scale in policy. So there are three policies, the default, new, and old, which means when it will delete the VMs, scale in, as we discussed, horizontally scale in, it will delete the VMs, then which VM it will delete? It will delete the new ones, it will delete the old ones, or it will delete the default option which has the highest instance ID. As the name tells you, the new means the policy will delete the newest created virtual machines in the scale set. And old being the policy will delete the oldest created virtual machines in the scale set. And the default, it will first balance virtual machines across availability zones if you have choose the option or it's configured, and balance across the fault domains, and then delete VMs with the highest instance ID. ID is a number assigned by scale set to a VM. I'll show you once the VMs will be created, there will be a number. I'll show you added as an ID of the VM. All right. Next is the management. So now virtual machine scale set also provide an option of automatic operating system upgrades. Its option is grayed out because I have choose my own image, but if you choose the platform image, it will be enabled. And then if it is enabled, then how it will upgrade the OS. So there are three options again. One is manual, one is automatic, and one is rolling. So manual, simply you're manually upgrading the VMs, based upon maybe the ID or based upon um, your own schedule. Automatically, it will start upgrading immediately in a random order. And rolling upgrade basically tells you the orchestrator will ensure that no more than 20% of instance in the entire scale set um, are healthy for any reason, then it will stop the update. So basically, you can set the batch sizes here. So the upgrade orchestrator tracks the percentage of instance that becomes unhealthy post an upgrade, and then the upgrade will stop if there are more than 20% of 20% of upgraded instance become unhealthy during the upgrade process, which can be checked through load balancer if you have enabled the health probe on it. Um, if you have choose the boot diagnostic to collect the logs, it will ask for the storage account. Then the managed identity, in case you want system managed entity, want to use with key vault for reason, you can choose to create one. All right, this is instance termination notification. Is this the termination notification is sent through Azure metadata service, which provides notification and any delaying in impactful operations such as reboots or deploy, right? You can set the time for that. Um, Application health, in case you want application health to be monitored, here is a web server, so it's checking the port 80, and will tell you if there is any issue with the application health. um, Microsoft also give this option automatic repair. It will do some diagnostics in case or try to repair it basically in case there is some issue with the web server you have configured. All right. Um, Allocation policy, in case you want to scale your VMs beyond 100 instance. If your application require, you can choose the option yes. If you don't want to scale beyond 100 VMs, then you can keep the option no. Force strictly with balance across zones, which means it will try to balance. If you have ability zones configured, it will try to balance between the fault domains between those zones. Spreading algorithm, there are two options: max spreading and fixed spreading. So spreading algorithm basically determines how VMs in the scale set are balanced across fault domains. So with max spreading, VMs are spread across as many fault domain as possible in each zone. Microsoft recommend deploying the max spreading for the most workloads. For fixed spreadings, VMs always spread across exactly 5 fault domains, and in case where fewer than 5 fault domains are available, a scale set using the max spreading will complete deployment. However, the fixed spreading, it will fail to deploy. Extensions, if you want to deploy post upgrade, you can use extension as an example, antivirus if you want to deploy to the virtual machines. um, any At the boot, you want to pass some script to configure, you want to make some changes in your web server, or add some configuration. You can use the you know you can do the use this custom data option to pass a script to configure that. Proximity placement group, it basically allows you to group Azure resources physically closer in the same region, as is mentioned here also. In case you want to keep it closer for some latency, you can use this option. I don't have any placement groups configured, so I cannot even choose this option. Tags, we'll just skip it. And at the end, before we we'll review it. It's showing some validation problems. I think it might be what is saying deployment template failed. Public address not found. Okay, okay, maybe in the networking part. Did I choose public address? No. Okay, maybe I'll remove these and add later. Okay. Deployment template validation failed. Template parameter public address name is not found. Public address name is not found. Surprisingly, it's not showing any red sign over here to see which public address it's referring to. All right, let me quickly go through all the options: name, region, zones, set, image. We choose our own image. Why is showing red over here? No, premium. Okay, no. Alright, I'm going to data disk. Okay, let me see this. If okay, not sure what caused the public address. It seems like the load balancer actually option. Okay, if I choose this new, let's see again. Okay, I don't know. Maybe the load balancer I choose to create first. There is some conflict with the public address, and now I pretty much choose the same option. Then that's ready to deploy. So to save some time, I'll not click on create because I already created a virtual machine scale set with the same options. I'll just jump into that. Here is the virtual machine scale set I created. So starting with the overview tab, it just tells you in which resource group we have created, and location we have choose the availability zone, all three zones we choose. That's the public address, and we choose standard B2S machines to deploy in our virtual machine scale set. Now, instance will tell you, the number of instance it created. And remember, I showed you the ID number. So if you click on this, it shows you instance ID is number 2 and fault domain is number 1. And then it also show you a zone somewhere. Here it is. It's in zone 3. It's created. So in the instance, you can simply go and check on which zone it is created. What's the ID number of the virtual machine. So here the ID number is 3, which in fact is showing over here also 2, 3, 4. Is sequential, but it's not always sequential. It could be random also, the ID number. And we choose the option when it scale in, it will scale in and delete the VMs which have the highest ID number. In this case, it's 4. In case I'll choose to scale in, it will delete this VM and keep the other two VMs remaining. Networking. Here it just show you the VNet, the NIC, the inbound ports. I choose RDP just because I want to show you if we have to log into to those three instances, how can we do that? So for that, you need to open the 3389 port, and port 80 I added for connecting through load balancer to the web server. Right? In case you want to check details of your load balancer, go to load balancing option, click on this, and it will show you the front IP configuration, which is this is the public IP of the load balancer. So in case we want to access the web server I created on the VMs, simply go here and then web.html, and it will open the web file I have added in IIS, and you can access it through the load balancer. Backend pool, it will show you the VMs which we have created through VMSS. Those are added under the backend pool of the load balancer. Health probe, it will keep checking the port 80 of web server and alert if there will be any issue. Now, how do you RDP to the VMs you created? Because there is only one public IP. If you see here in the inbound NAT rules, there are like port numbers defined to each instance. So you need to use the port number to RDP to the instance. So as an example, if I have to, this is I'm bringing on my RDP remote desktop. I'm using Mac, so if you have Windows, you can simply do mstsc, choose the IP and the port number. Here I have added this, and if I try to connect it, it will simply let you log in to the the VM. All right, here I'm logged in. So in case if you want to see in my image, I simply created a website, a simply HTML page. I added under C website, and then in IIS, I created another site, and then it's running on port 80. If you see, if I click on this to browse, it will open the same file which we are accessing through load balancer. All right, so this is all about load balancer. Going back to virtual machine scale set option. Next option is scaling. We choose the manual scaling. We started with 3. If we want, we can change the number to maybe scale into 2, and it will scale in from 3 to 2. VMs, if you want auto scale, where you want to add some kind of a condition. As an example, the threshold limit we saw, you can give that condition, where matrix is more than 70% of usage, wait for 10 minutes and increase the count by 1. And cooldown means it will wait for 5 minutes before it will deploy the other instance. Disk, we use the operating OS disk, a standard SSD I used. And if you want to create a new data disk, you can create from here. Operating system is simply showing that we choose the image, which is in this resource group, which is used as an operating system for the VMs. Again, automatic OS upgrade option, which we discussed, is grayed out here because we are choosing our own custom image, not the platform image. Windows license, in case further down the road you get the license, then you can choose option yes, license type, and then you can save some cost based upon your selection. Size, in case you want to change the size of your VMs, and want to change to suppose B2S to D2S V3, a bigger size of VM, as an example, which has more RAM. Now you can select the different size, and the VMs will be provisioned with the new VMs will be provisioned with this size. All right, health extension. I think this is pretty much it. Overall, in summary, we discussed what virtual machine scale sets are, how we create in the portal, and how we can, make the configuration changes once it's created. Hope it is useful for you. Thank you for your time.